Gotta find me an angel.
You're listening to the Life After Loss podcast. This show is a safe place for angel moms and angel dads who have lost a child. It's a safe place to share, cry, celebrate, and connect to a community of parents who have experienced grief and gotten through it. Here's your host, Darcea Handy.
So, it's a Saturday afternoon, and I'm at home. My daughter has gone to the Children's Museum with her dad. At this time, she's about 5 years old. So I'm relaxing. Then she comes back home after visiting the museum, and she runs in and she's crying really, really bad. And I said, Naya, what's wrong? What's wrong? She said, my daddy is sad. My daddy is sad. My daddy is crying. He's crying. And I was like, Naya, well, what are you talking about? And she said, well, we went to visit my brother. And she said, Mommy, you didn't tell me I had a brother, and my dad is sad about my brother. So I said, okay, Naya, please go into your room for just a few moments, and Mommy will be up there. I'm going to talk to you. And of course, I was angry. So I go to my children's husband, and I said, what happened? And he said, I just wanted to go and visit him in Babyland. And I said, well, why would you take her? We haven't talked to her. We haven't told her. Why would you take her there? He said, well, I just wanted to go. I said, okay, well, thank you. Now I have to deal with this. So, angel moms and dads, I was angry, but let me tell you why. 2 reasons. Number one, I was still kind of in denial. I wasn't ready yet to talk about it. And I was angry with him because now the responsibility has fallen on me to tell her about her brother that she did not remember. So I was angry and frustrated. So what do? How do you talk to a child about a sibling that they don't remember? How do you talk to your child about a sibling that they're watching their daddy cry over? And you have to understand, my daughter is a daddy's girl through and through. So for her to see her father cry, it really broke her. And that angered me as well. But what I had to do was step outside of myself, step outside of how I felt, and I had to consider both of them. Now, you all know when I lost my son, I had no support from professionals, my family and prayers. So I really didn't know how to go about having this conversation, which was one of the reasons why I was so mad, because I didn't know how to have it. But I went to the side, I prayed, and I said, okay, Lord, I have to do this now. You're just going to have to guide me and help me. And what I decided to do after I prayed, or maybe it was, I'm not even going to say maybe, it was God giving me the words to say. I said, okay, for sure, I'm going to be honest with my daughter because she's gone to his physical place of rest. See, she was upset because they had gone to Babyland in Forest Park, which is where my son has been laid to rest. So she saw his name and his tombstone and his vase with his flowers. She saw the little cars and little things on his place of rest. So she knows that there is a physical body there. So now I have to talk to her. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to be honest, but how do I give this to a 5-year-old where she's going to understand it? Angel moms and dads, that was one of the most difficult conversations that I had to have with my child. What do you do when your child comes in and say, Daddy's crying and he misses my brother and I miss my brother? Well, as you know, I wanted my children 18 months apart and they were 18 months apart. So Naya was a baby. She was 18 months or almost 19 months or something. She does not remember him, but she knows. So what I did, I went and talked to her. Okay, you all know that I had a miscarriage before Naya. And then when I had Naya, she was very, very small and she was born really early and she had some health issues. She had to see the doctor every week and she was on a nebulizer and everything. And we have pictures. So she knows that she was really small and she was sick. So when I went in her room to talk to her, I said, okay, we're going to have a conversation. Mommy's going to talk to you. And she was like, I don't want to know my brother. I said, well, Naya, here's the thing. When I was pregnant with your brother, I said, sometimes babies, when they're developing on the inside, sometimes things happen. Sometimes they can get sick on the inside and very, very sick. And sometimes, they're just not um, born, or they're not born to stay here and they pass away. I was honest with her at her level. That's one thing that's so important. Make sure you're talking to your children at a level where they can understand. I didn't want to give her some fantasies about some things that kids, you can put things in their mind and they'll fantasize about them. So I told her he was born sick. I said, now, remember you were born early and you were small. She was like, yes, I remember. I saw the pictures. And I said, well, he was born and his body wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to be born. He wasn't really ready to be here. So his body just could not maintain itself. And at that time, it wasn't a lot of machines or medicine that could help him. So it was a different time then. And you guys know that we were in a small town and there was no NICU at the time. But for her and her age group, I said just the medicine, it just wasn't the the healthcare industry wasn't prepared where we were in the hospital where we were. So I told her, I said, I did everything that I could. Daddy did everything that he could. And the hospital did everything that they could, even though they didn't. But I said, but his heart wasn't strong enough for him to stay. And he passed away. I said, he died. And when you die, you're gone. Your heart stops beating. And that means that someone is dead. He died. I said, now when that happens, people get sad because they know that they're not going to be able to see that person again, and they have ceremonies for the person when they die. I said, so that's what we did for your brother. When your brother died, his heart stopped beating and he died. We had a service for him. It was called a funeral, and grandmommy was there, and granny was there, and papa and papa J and papa B, everyone who needed to be there, they were there. I said, now people were sad and they were crying because the service we had was called a funeral, and it's when you're basically saying goodbye to the person who has died because you're not going to see them again. So after you have the funeral, then the people are placed, in a place where they can stay because they're no longer alive. And it's called a cemetery. And your brother's in baby land. That's where he was buried. It's in baby land. It's only babies there. And your dad probably just went because he was missing him, and maybe he wanted to put some flowers there because he knows that that's where he is buried. And I said, although we know that one day when we pass away, a long time from now, and we go to heaven, we'll probably see him again. But for right now, he's not here and we miss him. So it is sad when we go to Babyland. And she was like, well, Mommy, you don't take me with you. You don't take me there to Babyland. I said, I know I don't, because it's very sad for me when I go. At that time, it was. At that time, I would go by myself all the time because I would just lay out. I would just lay down on top of the headstone. It was very, very difficult for me. But so I had to have that conversation with her, and I shared it with her in a way that she could understand it for her level. So, parents, what I want to tell you is when you are speaking to your children about death, be honest with them. Make sure you're talking to them at the level that they can understand. You can tell them the steps that are going to happen. If you're going to have a funeral, you can tell them that. You can let them know we're going to have a service or if it's called a funeral, and we're going to be saying goodbye at this time. Now, sometimes you can let your children actually participate, not in seeing the body or anything like that, but when people are given a talk, or when they allow time to speak, maybe you can let them say something. Like one of my small nieces at my godmother's funeral, she said, "Oh, I miss Nanny because she used to give me candy. I love Nanny, and she gave me candy." And when you give your children an opportunity to participate or to say something, then it does two things for them. It makes it real for them, and then it also lets them know that they are a part of the family. You're not talking over them. It's not like, okay, everybody, children, go to the kids' table or go in the room. You're making them a part of the ceremony and the service, and they are saying goodbye, and you let them know people are going to be sad because we know, we're not going to see him again. And after this ceremony and this service, the funeral, then we're not going to see him again. Now, after we leave, we're going to go to the cemetery, and we'll have a service there. And there are going to be some flowers on, the where he's going to be laid. And we'll probably take some of those flowers and then let them know afterwards. We're probably going to go and eat with some of the family members. People might do some hugging of each other, and they may cry, and they may be sad for a moment, or they may be sad for that time, but they're not going to be sad forever. It's not going to be like that all the time. It's just during that time. You know, it's sad because it's where your family members are, and you're like, oh, this is everybody I love, and I can be okay with them. I said now to my daughter, I said, did you cry when daddy was crying? And she said, well, I cried a little bit, but I was strong, and I just patted my daddy. I was strong. I said, okay. And I said, but when you came home, you cried to me. She said, well, yeah, mommy, I cried to you. I said, well, when we have services like that I'm talking about, sometimes the adults, we may cry. My mom was there. Both of my moms were there, and I cried. My dad was there when we had your brother's service, and I cried because they were there. And I said, they were with me and they comforted me. I said, so sometimes when you have services like that, the family members who come around, you may feel like, okay, I can breathe and be myself in front of this person, and they're going to help me. I said, just like you helped your dad, but you knew when you came home that mommy would help you. That's what happens when we have these services. We help our family members. So, yeah, it is sad. I said, yes, daddy does miss him. I miss him too. And I'm sorry you don't remember him. But you do have a brother, and I shared more information about him. Now, I didn't go into his photo album and all of that because she was very young, and to this day, I still don't take her to Babyland with me. And she's 17 years old. It's a personal choice that I've made. And when she's ready, she will go with me. But it's still something that's very, very personal to me. So, angel moms and dads, what I want you to know, what I want you to get from this episode is share information with your children on their level. If they're a teenager, the conversation is going to be different. If they're a toddler, they may not remember. And preschool, middle school age, just share the information with them on their level. Now, if you need some resources or you need a little bit more help, you can go ahead and reach out to me. You can reach out to me at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com and click on the Life After Loss podcast. And you can reach out to me. You can send me a DM at Super Angel Mom on Twitter, and I can give you pointers and tips depending on where your child is in their age group on how you can have that conversation. It's a difficult conversation to have. It's not easy by any means, but you have to remember to be truthful with your child. Meet them where they are and give them the truth, and it won't seem so mysterious and so far away from them when someone passes away. And if you can, include them in the service. If you don't want them at the service and you don't want them to see anyone that's, being buried, then let them help when you're picking pictures. If you're putting pictures in the program, let them do something to be a part of it. if they're not, and you're talking to them, just tell them why you didn't tell them. You were too young, or you just didn't remember him, or, I wanted to wait till you were older. I wanted to talk to you when I felt like, oh, okay, maybe you're ready for this conversation. Don't make it something that, oh, I just kept this away from you, or I just didn't want to tell you. Um, and what you're doing when you're talking to them, just make them comfortable with the conversation. And you can be comfortable also. Another thing, I did cry a little bit when I was speaking to her, and that's okay. And I told her, yes, mommy gets sad too because I miss him too. And yes, I'm sad right now because I miss him and we're talking about him, but I'm going to be okay in a few minutes. Let your children know that it is okay to grieve. It's okay to have moments of sadness, but they don't have to stay in that sadness. So, angel moms and dads, I love each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And please know that I am here for each and every one of you. And don't forget to look at us on Spotify and Odyssey and Apple Podcast. And we appreciate you. And like I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time.
You've been listening to Life After Loss with your host, Darcea Handy. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast for new episodes every Wednesday. For more on this program, log on to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
If you're like me, family is the most important thing in your life, but talking about finances with your family can be a challenge. This is a photo of me, my mom, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother. Every lesson I learned about putting money away for a rainy day, I learned from them. That's why I'm moderating an AARP panel on Tuesday, November 9th at 6:30 to talk about saving money for retirement no matter what stage you're in. So whether you're Gen Z, a millennial, Gen X, or a boomer, join me on November 9th. We'll have a panel of common folks like you and me. We'll work together so we can find solutions. To sign up for this free event, log on to aarp.org/MN events. This event is sponsored by AARP Minnesota, Black Women's Wealth Alliance, Bridgemakers, and Youth Prize.